Recording. Okay, we are all on record. Okay, thank you very much. Firstly, good morning, Shivram, Kritika, Mitanshu, Ankit, Sundar, Vaibhav. Thank you very much for being here. I think it's nice to have all 6 of you join. I've been doing this, the third or fourth I'm doing. I'll be publishing all those on different themes. And usually it's difficult to get a full house. At least one of those guys finally have some hitch and they don't join. I'm glad to have all of you. So the idea here is, as I had mentioned in the morning, it's an experiment really. We all have been through a lot of panel discussions. Practically every one of you guys would have been either a moderator or a panelist, or at least in the audience many times. Most of the times these panel discussions have actually excellent inputs. In fact, last year at Climafix, Ankit was the moderator. I was sitting in the audience. That was one of the few panels I had the luxury to sit in the audience. I was running around otherwise. It was very good, the kind of inputs we were getting. Finally, what happens to those inputs? I mean, it's very challenging. Once we get out of the hall, we all go our own ways and it's very difficult. So the experiment here is, look, why don't we use technology, get all these minds together virtually, right? That way we can even afford 2 or 3 times and then use these inputs at the summit when all of us, I'm sure, will be physically present. Will that make a difference? Well, that's something we are going to figure out later this year. But for today, this is the first of the sessions. And since we have the luxury of doing 2 or 3 sessions in the series, what I thought was, let's have a theme and split it into 2 or 3 stages. The first stage can be where we set the context, which is today. And based on this, we can take back things that we do together, get back maybe in a couple of weeks, do one more stage, if time permits a 3rd stage. Hopefully, by the end of the 3rd stage, we have a lot of inputs, which are far more structured, well thought out, more brainstorm. And hopefully these inputs can be put together as a white paper at the very least. And, with people like Ankit, who also, have a lot of connections, if it's possible to even get something done with these kind of inputs, why not? That's the idea. Let's start it off. We have about 45 minutes with us. I want to end it at 12. Very quickly, I'm going to say, read out the names, even though all of you probably know each other in some way or the other. And then I'm going to request each of you guys to spend maybe a couple of minutes introducing yourself and your solutions. Remember, this is just the 6 of us, but we are going to use this video for years to come. So many of you may want a good introduction from yourself. So 2 minutes for each of you, introducing your product solutions. And then the next round will be where each of you can probably tell me where you really see the challenges are in scaling sustainable materials, low carbon materials from where it is today and where it should be. Why don't we start with Shivram?
Okay. Shivram Pillai, one of the co-founders of ProClean Technologies. I'm a biochemist by education, spent many years in multiple industries before setting up ProClean in 2012. We use a very unique fermentation process using a consortium of microorganisms to make products which replace chemicals in multiple industries. Our uniqueness, or what gives us the edge, is the low cost, low carbon footprint process we use for coming up with these products which replace chemicals. To very quickly give you an idea, we use about 98% less energy compared to the products we replace. We release 99% less effluent. It is carried out at ambient temperature. So overall, it is a low carbon footprint, low capital cost, low OPEX process. Why this is important is, one of the issues in commercializing green chemistry products is their cost. They are not able to compete with traditional chemistry products. And when you have a process which consumes very low energy and releases very low effluents, has a very low, comparatively much lower capital cost, then you're able to produce these products and still compete with chemicals, which of course are the lowest priced products in the market. So that increases the acceptance from customers, because one of the friction points in adopting new technology and new products is people don't want to spend more than what they're already spending. So it's important to have that. So that's where we are different, and we have taken a long time to break into the market because we were competing with multinational chemical companies and taking business away from them. But our traction has increased over the last 3-4 years, and we are in an accelerated growth manner right now. Fortunately we have built a professional team which is far more capable than the founding team to achieve this growth. In that sense, the founders have been very smart, that we look for people who are smarter than us to come in and do the job. So that's where we are. We are in a very interesting phase of growth. We have gone past all those difficult times for startups, when most startups fail. We have just become profitable a year and a half ago. So all things looking good. And fortunately for us, I think the stars are all aligned, because there is a significant increase in the awareness of need for the kind of products we make and kind of applications we are promoting. So the awareness, we were just talking before the discussion started, that even in the last 1 year since the last Climafix, we are finding that the awareness has significantly increased, and more people are talking about the need for doing things the way which we are trying to do. So that's my background. Any questions we can discuss?
Thank you, Shivram. Thank you very much. So he represents green chemicals. Once we finish all of these, I'll try to connect the dots in terms of the spectrum of products that we represent. Kritika, she comes from the green building segment. Kritika.
Okay. Hi. Nice to see everyone back here again. So I am basically an architect by qualification. I run an organization called Green Sketch Consultants. We are on a kind of a consultancy side. We don't make products. We consult for projects to help them go green, especially buildings. How we do this is twofold. One is through educating them for industry-based practices and what they do, how they should do. What are the simplest things that they can do that will make them more energy efficient, water efficient, what are the kind of materials they can select and all that. And the other thing is through technology, where we have many simulation softwares, where we are capable of doing simulations to find out how much of energy you're likely to consume per month, per year, and what are the opportunities for reducing that. So the simulation software can tell you, without building the building itself, if you use this material, how will it be? If you use that material, how will it be? If you buy this AC, what it will happen? If you buy that AC, what will happen? And the same way we do simulations for day lighting as well, for airflow ventilation, those kinds of things as well, where we can identify upfront from the design itself how efficient your building design is. And in this space, there is also a couple of certifications, which are, some of you might have heard, called IGBC, LEED, and GRIHA and all that. So we facilitate those certifications also as an extension of our core work. And our company is almost 9 years old now. And we have been, I think we are just behind Shivraman sir in the space of our stars also seem to be aligning very shortly. So we can see the signs, and we can feel the market is picking up, and there is a lot of positive inquiries. Like earlier, they used to be just like random inquiries and all that, but now people are really interested, and they are ready to get the business also, because they see the value addition that we bring to them. And so it's looking good right now, and we hope to fuel this momentum as far as possible and go for the next 10 years. So that's where we stand.
Thank you, Kritika. So that's from a person who has been working in green buildings, both from an architecture, materials point of view, as well as she said, now they are also trying to get technology insight to see how we can arrive at much better choices. Sundar is from Nature Tech India. He has been running the the show for quite some time. Sundar, by the way, as you can see, is dressed very differently.
Yeah.
That is because he's actually traveling. So
Yeah.
that's not a different dress. It's he's traveling. So
I have a seat belt.
yeah. So don't think he's dancing or something. Maybe he is, but part of the reason he's shaking is because he's traveling. Okay, Sundar, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Narsi. First of all, I think it's great. Probably this is the first time I'm actually getting into a panel discussion with a panel with whom I've already been there. So I think this is great, right? I mean, and as Narsi, you said, we all go ahead and we talk in these panels, but we come out and we start doing our own stuff. But now, like, I'm able to understand a lot better when Shivram sir was talking about what he was doing or what Kritika was saying. So this is great. You get the same panel together. So it's I think this is wonderful. Now coming to what we do. So my name is Sundar and I basically manage the operations of a company called Nature Tech. We are part of a US publicly listed organization called Northern Technologies International Corporation. We are based out of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And essentially, we are in the space of bio-based and compostable plastics. So, or what you want to call in general as a bioplastic. Typically, there are a couple of different value propositions we work on. One is we look at understanding how do we reduce the use of petroleum carbon and can move into a renewable carbon kind of a material, which could then be a direct impact on carbon footprint and kind of look at energy savings and stuff like that from a materials perspective. The second is from an end of life perspective. What we are doing is we are just ensuring that we are able to provide different end of life options for especially single use plastics. Today, the biggest challenge with single use plastics is that especially with a short lifespan, they're very difficult to collect. And when we look at plastics, it's the end of life can be recycling, which is a very good end of life. But when you have these short lifespan plastics, it becomes very difficult to collect and recycle. Or I would say the economics of doing it makes it very prohibitive. So giving a different end of life option. So one of the things our material does is we focus a lot on the food industry. We look at materials which can biodegrade and compost in industrial composting sites in the same rates as traditional food waste and other organic waste. So you don't require to really separate the waste from the plastic, and it goes into a certain end of life. And we've been working with companies like McDonald's, Starbucks. They are some of our customers globally, where we align on zero waste concepts. In terms of what we are seeing in India right now, I've also been very closely working with, Ministry of Environment and Department of Chemicals, Petrochemicals, and Niti Aayog, and all the different regulatory bodies. There's definitely a lot of momentum being built up around looking at alternates for single-use plastics, and that's only increasing as what we are seeing. And it's important to kind of look at end of life from a waste management infrastructure, which is, incidentally, last week there was a meeting at the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board, where for the first time they want to do a project where they have involved the Greater Chennai Corporation to look at how do these compostable bags actually compost in micro composting sites, which are there in the city of Chennai. And as part of the Indian Compostable Polymer Association, we are going to be a partner in this project. So it's definitely a great step forward. I think there's a lot more awareness. We need to close the end of life. We need to close the loop to build that circularity. And yeah, so it's really exciting times, and I look forward to being able to contribute more in this field. And once again, thanks, Narsi, for this opportunity.
Pleasure, Sundar. Let's go on to Mitanshu. We'll finish the introductions first so that we have at least 30 minutes with us for the next stage, which I think is more important. Mitanshu, 2 minutes about yourself. What do you guys do?
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Myself, Mitanshu Chaudhary. I'm from EcoPack. We are majorly into extrusion and thermoforming for compostable plastics. We have earlier, as we had met last year in the seminar, we were discussing about the challenges about PLA introducing into the market. But now currently PLA is very well accepted into the market compared to petroleum products like PBAT or anything, because it has a very low carbon footprint. And currently people are accepting it, and now cost is just a myth. So the major challenge is the availability of the other additives, and how can we increase the performance of the raw PLA and compare it with the other petrochemical materials and give customers the same solution that they are expecting it from conventional plastics. And as Sundar sir said, that the people are looking at alternatives for single-use plastic in all the different segments of packaging. May it be carry bags, may it be kind of paper containers. They also are looking in paper containers for PLA coating other than any other coating, such as PBS or these, which has a very low carbon footprint, because now major food, food takeaway and food service brands, which are starting up and having a huge market presence currently through Zomato or through their own online thing, they are also signing up for zero carbon footprint. So that is something great. So they're also looking for new packaging materials which are at a low, which has a very low carbon footprint, and that's a good thing for the industry. And I think so it is growing rapidly. And even in Pune, as Sundar sir said, even Association of Compostable Plastics in India, we are also doing a pilot project with Pune Mahanagarpalika, where the industrial composting of all the products which are available, certified by CPCB, can be composted, and they are doing a pilot project. Once that project is successful, then I think so it will have a good reach and scale across all municipal corporations.
Thank you, Mitanshu. Vaibhav, you come from Bambrew, somebody who has been doing a lot of work from Bambrew. Vaibhav, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Nasi sir, and thank you everyone for this beautiful presence. So talking about Bambrew, we are into sustainable packaging solutions. And we developed solutions which are paper-based and bioplastic-based. So recently we have developed bioplastics which are not industrially compostable. So I differ from both Sundar and Mitanshu on the composting part. So if you see the challenges at the waste segregation, how would you segregate between plastic and a compostable item? You can't do that. It is absolutely impossible to do that. So, and unfortunately, we do not have an industrial composting facility also, right? So it's very difficult to compost something which is industrially compostable. At Bambrew, what we have developed as an alternate material is that you do not require to segregate it from your waste, the general waste. It can decompose on its own into the same waste as you generate at home, whether it goes for landfill, whether it's good for any other a kind of dumping. So the materials which we use are indigenous, which means we do not require to import it. And the materials which we use are highly in abundance available in India, right? So we are self-dependent from the supply side as well. So these are the two materials that we work with. And obviously there are multiple iterations to these materials in each of the forms. We have come long way from developing alternates for the secondary and tertiary packaging like carry bags and other things, mailer bags, courier bags, and so on and so forth, to now working with very large FMCG companies, not only in India, plus also in Europe, right, where we are developing alternates for their packaging materials, for the food packaging, for non-food as well, detergent packaging, confectionery packaging, you name it. Like we have been working with all of these very major brands, and the path is not fast. I mean, it's not going to happen immediately. It will take time. You know, people are I would say, they are embracing the change right now, and it will take time for them to understand, because it's very unsure right now in the market that how this material will perform, whether I have availability or not. So I think that awareness has to be there. Even if the product is there, you have made a product, but will you be able to supply me for a long term? Will you do you have the capacity to deliver these products at scale to me? These are some of the questions which all these major companies has, and which is fair to ask. They're willing to change. Cost, yes, cost is also one of the factors, because the challenge is not putting a ban, the challenge is implementing the ban. If you see, still we are using carry bags at multiple places of plastic. Now you can't compete against a 25-30 microns of plastic against 20-25 microns of either you use an industrial composting material or a home compost. You can't really match that. Until this ban is implemented properly, I was reading Smithers' report, and it clearly says that by 2040, it will all be government mandated. I can share that for the larger discussion later on the stage to the team. But it clearly says that by 2040, all the governments will work in this format, and it will be 100% government mandated to use alternate materials than to single-use plastic. So yes, at Bambrew, we develop multiple solutions across FMCG, F&B, retail, even pharmaceutical industry also. And we are hoping to be a leader in this sustainable packaging space very, very soon. But yes, would like to connect with you, Sundarji, again, and let's see what can be developed in the home compostable region, not in the industrial. We are very, very sure that industrially compostable materials are not for a very long run.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, Vaibhav. Very. I think we see that the discussion has already started. So we can see that there are points of divergence, and I'm sure these divergences can lead to convergence and action. So we come to Ankit, the last, partly because he was last in the list in the order I saw on the screen, but more importantly, because he wears two hats. He has a packaging firm, which he'll surely talk about. And he also wears an investor hat. He also has invested in Bambrew. So I thought it would be good if he can speak last. Maybe he can pick up a few things from here and there from what you guys said, along with his experience, and say a few words. Ankit.
Thank you, Narsi. It's good to be back, and I'm really looking forward to this year's edition of Climafix, given that you've stirred up a really a hornet's nest last year by actually catalyzing dialogue on a subject which very few people talk about, or few people don't want to talk about it, which is climate. But thank you for having me here. My name is Ankit Kedia, and like Narsi said, I wear two hats. One of them is the one which is my full-time gig is a lead investor at Capital A. It's a Bangalore-based early stage venture capital fund. We largely invest in areas of climate, fintech, and tech-enabled startups. And apart from that, I also have a company called Manjushri PackTech, where we manufacture disposable paper packaging for the food service industry, which includes paper cups, bowls, and everything else. We are also investors in Bambrew, and Vaibhav and I keep jamming on a lot of thoughts on how we can work together to sort of get this entire paper packaging. Hope it does not meet the same fate as plastics. Ironically, my family and I ran a company called Manjushri Technopack, which manufactured rigid plastics for 40 years, and we divested that in 2018. While at some point in time, I do feel that there is merit in coexistence of different types of packaging, but at some point in time, if there is alternate available and that alternate is better, I think the entire law of minimum damages should start kicking in, which is the least damaging, which is the least liability of the lot. And if that can help us tide over this entire issue of recycling, it's just good. It's just for the greater good. One of the things what we have been trying to do at Capital A while building a thesis, and while we are not experts in everything, because we largely start with a bottom-up approach when we start building thesis on lower carbon footprint or reduced carbon footprint businesses. at a lab level, everything is very, very attractive and glamorous. The moment it comes out outside of the lab, and when it has to be done at scale, and then you start defining it as a business, is when the actual action starts. For example, when Shivram mentioned about how climate-friendly chemistries are leading to lower effluents, it's leading to lower wastages, and the delta of the price between what is available and what is the price at which it gets sold, addressing these climate issues, the awareness and education of that, unless that starts to kick in, and people start to realize that there is a fair amount of premium that should be given to climate friendly or climate supportive businesses, I think that may be a sign of evolution. And quite honestly, that's a piece we are struggling with as well, with most of our businesses, most of our climate portfolio businesses, when we start telling them that, look, it's okay to keep your differential pricing, and at some point in time we will. But then when you're wearing a investor hat, you also want to make sure that there is a finite time till which you wait for that growth to happen, kick in, habit formation happens, and ultimately you give rise to a different economy altogether. That would be my 2 cents on the entire carbon footprint, lower carbon footprint businesses. And hopefully events and discussions and conversations like these will open up more ideas. And like you said, Narsi, it's just okay to have completely extreme and diverse views. As long as we are talking about it, we can agree to disagree, but as long as we are talking about it, I think that's maturity.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Thank you, Ankit. So as Ankit said, yeah, I guess, you see, this is a very challenging area. If it had been on solar power, for instance, there are lots of places where people will pretty much completely agree. It's almost like a plug and play, except for a few areas here and there, guys are going to say yes, yes, yes to everything. But we know low carbon materials has been a very challenging area. So let me set the quick context for 20-30 minutes of debate and probably some ideas and challenges. You see, that's really the point. If I look at, I know some statistics on Sundar's area, for instance, bioplastics, because we had done a fair amount of work in that area. When I first met Sundar, this was, I think, about 6-7 years back. I was doing a very detailed assignment on the Indian bioplastic segment. It was a consulting assignment. That was when I first met him. The percentage of bioplastics in the total plastics industry worldwide was 1%. So it was approximately like 2-3 million tons out of 300 million tons of total plastics that were being used. This is all sorts of plastic. Now, I had actually not looked at the segment for some time. Then when I looked at it, I think a year back it was, I expected this to have gone up to 4%, 5%, but I was shocked. It was still the same 1%. So Sundar, maybe you can correct me, but what I saw was that between 2016 and 2021 or 22, the percentage of bioplastics, the total plastics industry worldwide, hadn't increased at all. In fact, I saw that for some of the sectors like PLA, surprisingly, the numbers seem to come down a bit. I could be wrong, or maybe it was a very temporary statistic. Now, against that, what we hear from Kritika, what we hear from Sibram, what we hear even from others is that there is a tailwind. There's a major tailwind where even the consumers, the government, the industry, they want to really make the change happen. So we are seeing two things. I don't know the numbers for paper-based products. Vaibhav, maybe you can update me. But when it comes to plastics versus bioplastics, the needle hasn't moved at all from what I see. Maybe Kritika, you can tell me if it is any different. I also have a bit of experience working with her, similar to the interaction I had with Sundar, where when we tried to have individuals build eco-friendly houses with green building materials, but that was a slog as well. we worked on a number of projects, but very few things actually moved. Maybe now it's slightly better, but there I think we would have worked on maybe 10 projects, and none of them actually signed up. They all said, yeah, we want an eco-friendly house. And then when, as Ankit said, when it came to putting the pen to paper, none of them signed up. So the question, guys, from my side is putting all these together. There is a tailwind. The world wants to change. The stars seem to be getting aligned, but I don't see, at least in the packaging sector, at least the core material sector, percentages of low carbon material. I don't see anything that is anywhere close to healthy. Even in Sivram's case, while his company might be doing very well, whatever his numbers are, it's going to be a drop in the ocean when it comes to overall chemicals. So the question to you guys is, we will not have answers today for sure. What do you think are the challenges that is stopping it? It's fairly clear. In some niche markets, maybe percentages are 10 or 20%. Otherwise, we are talking about 1%, 2% or less than that of low carbon materials compared to the overall ocean of traditional materials. Why is that? I have some things in mind, but I'm going to listen to you guys. Why is that? How we can overcome these challenges for some other time. I think we probably will need many hours just to discuss challenges. But if we can have a decent list in the next 30 minutes, it'll be a very good start. So that's the question. Challenges that is stopping these low carbon materials from scaling to much larger and more deserved heights. Anybody can start talking. There is no order over here.
So, Mr. Nasi, I would like to go first here. I think the answer is very simple to this. Is the right alternate material and the right price. Both of the things are interdependent. If you have the right price, the scale will go up. Or if you have higher demand for the material is right, the scale will go up, which will bring down the cost eventually. Right now, as you rightly mentioned about the PLA, which is an industrial composting product, as I was mentioning earlier also. In Europe and in major other countries, the PLAs are not getting used. It's been rejected by the industry because of the sheer problem of segregation at the ground level and having no industrial composting facility available. So we need to work on the materials which are right. There are challenges when it comes to packaging. If you see, the packaging is divided into 3 segments: primary, secondary, and tertiary. The primary segment contributes the majority of this single-use plastic waste which is generated, to the tune of 460 million tons globally, right? And you mentioned 1%. I mean, in my opinion or my knowledge, it's not even 1% today, the alternate materials, right? It's just because there is no material yet developed at scale, which could solve the problem at large for primary packaging. Secondary packaging, there are no limitations, anybody can develop anything, whether it's paper-based, whether it's bioplastic-based or anything. There is no, strong mode, I would say, in the secondary and the tertiary packaging, which is there because there is no mandate from the, institutions or the companies that, I need this kind of flux, I need this WVTR, these properties, XY properties. There is nothing as such required. Okay, that will work. But in primary packaging, people or the brands are more concerned about the functionality of it, right? Which is currently being given by the plastic. And PLA is not sufficing those functionalities. Like PLAs cannot be metallized. The dyne value of the PLA or the bioplastic cannot be achieved in such a fashion that it can be metallized today. So there are other ways to provide those functionalities. Right.
So, Vaibhav will come to that. I think the point was very well made. You're saying the key challenges, some of the key products we are looking at as alternatives, for example, PLA, which is the front runner, you're saying it is not really solving the problem. Anybody else?
Sir, if you see, PLA has a lot of competitors in the sustainable segment. If you consider plastic itself, there is no competition for plastic. If it is a PET material, it has to be PET. There is no replacement for PET in its application. But when you consider the uniformity of PLA, which is working under all the applications, may it be injection molding, may it be thermoforming, may it be sheet extrusion, blown flame extrusion, under all the processing parameters, it's been adjusted. Now coming to PLA, considering the limitations and the options available into the market in the sustainable segment. So currently, as we're discussing, there will be a carry bag which can be of a PLA material, can be of a PBAT material, or it can be of a paper bag material. But the paper bag material in India, it's not working very well, because when you're traveling into the tier 2, tier 3 cities, maximum people are traveling on bike. How are they going to carry it on a paper bag on the bike? So there they are using plastic bags. That is the reason they are using plastic bags. So they want an option for that. That is a major challenge. We are not understanding the consumer's actual requirements. When it comes to the product market fit, PLA has been struggling really hard to get an actual product market fit into each segment of whatever segment it may be. But that is the greatest challenge that, yes, sir.
I appreciate, and as I said, I think we probably will. I'll try to get you guys for an hour and a half slot later. This is going to be an interesting discussion. Where are the challenges? I appreciate maybe there are, plastics are required, bioplastics are required in some part. PLA is required. Where are the challenges? PLA, if it is not catching up, is it performance? Is it cost? Is it just the push from the government or segregation? What is it?
Majorly introducing different products into the market. Very few people are introducing different products into the market. They are only, yes.
Yeah. Narsi, I want to just come in.
Mitanshu, we cannot hear you. You're muted, but maybe Sundar, why don't we go to you?
Yes, let Sundar sir continue. I just didn't want to interrupt.
Maybe Sundar can proceed. Mitanshu can come back.
Okay.
Sundar?
Yeah. Narsi, a few very quick points from my side. So first of all, I don't agree to the fact that bioplastics have not grown in the first place. Now, if you look at percentage of plastics, definitely the rate of growth has not been to the level that was expected, but definitely if you look at volumes, it's grown.
Okay.
Now you have NatureWorks, which had a first plant, and Total Corbion has come up with they are having a 70,000 ton per year plant, and NatureWorks has already announced another 150,000 ton per year plant in Thailand, which is supposed to come in by 2024. So there is there is growth. Now, I just want to make two simple points. One, we are trying to replace a technology like plastics, and we are saying that why is this material not being able to do it, right? I mean, let's step back and understand that plastics are very different as a material. It's one material which gives you cost, it gives you performance. You can beat the hell out of plastic. It will process however you want it to process. It will run in whatever machines you want it to run. So, and there's so much of development that's gone in the plastics industry. So I don't think one material is going to replace it. Forget it. PLA, PBS, you can talk any bioplastics, paper. There has to be a coexistence of technology. So that's point number one. Now, coming to your specific topic of challenges, the major challenges is scale. Like one challenge is scale. Like when you are talking of a PLA facility, now obviously there has to be a scale of at least 200,000 tons per year for that facility to be profitable. And when you are getting into a business which is highly dependent on legislations, people who are going to invest into it have to be 100% sure that there is a market to support this kind of scale. So there's obviously a step approach in terms of investing into some of these areas. That's one. Second is feedstock. Now, materials like PLA are heavily dependent on the right quality of feedstock. So if you look at NatureWorks, they make PLA from corn, and they have their own corn fields. So it's almost like saying that because you don't want to get into, I'll take a case. Hyson is making PLA in China, but they are dependent on the lactic acid from Total Corbion. So tomorrow, if Total Corbion pulls the plug on the lactic acid, Hyson's entire PLA plant is going to come to a stop. So everyone who are looking into PLA technologies are looking at feedstock sustainability. Second. Third is scale, which is, as I said, without the scale, you're not going to be profitable. So you need the scale, you need the right feedstock, and you need the right legislative landscape to be able to get the markets ready. And when I mean legislative, I am also mentioning about end of life, I'm mentioning about, the whole infrastructure for how do you do some of these waste management initiatives. So it's all this combination. And I don't think that materials, any material is going to come close to plastics. That's a long way ahead, I feel. But definitely there's growth, and PLA might not be the best material around, but I don't think any material can replace plastics. Forget PLA. So that's just my sense.
Got it. Got it. Vaibhav has said he has to move in 5 minutes. I may take the liberty of extending by about 5-10 minutes. So Vaibhav, maybe if there is something else. So I want to ask a quick question, Vaibhav, to you. You see, you are predominantly, from what I see on your website and what I have heard from you, you do not use PLA, you don't polymerize anything, right? You are using predominantly stuff like bamboo. Now, one challenge as a normal consumer I face is, as I think Sundar also pointed out, look, plastic is plastic and paper is paper. There are places where paper cannot replace plastic. I'm not even talking about rigid plastics, even when it comes to flexible plastics, even when it comes to plastic cups, plastic trays, plastic spoons. Do you see that as a challenge? The fact that they cannot perform as well as plastic in many packaging applications.
No, you're absolutely right there. The kind of flexibility and the agility plastic provides, paper cannot provide. It can perform like plastic on certain aspects of functionality, but not every aspect of it, right? So yes, we are not only paper or a bamboo-driven business. We use bioplastics, but we consciously do not use PLA because of the industrial composting. Yes, at some places where you require stability in the granules, when you require stability in your blown film, there are certain slips, compostable slips, which are used. We use bee wax, honey bee wax, which are naturally available to give a stability to the blown film that we develop. Now, our blown films are all home compostable as per year 13432, and which is equivalent to being biodegradable, right? Where you do not create segregation. So yes, I see there is a challenge. You can't solve each and every problem, as Mr. Sundar said. But yes, there is a lot of space to actually solve a lot of problems. Like we have developed materials which has a very high barrier properties, which are required in your primary packaging space. We have developed materials for the pharmaceutical industry. We are working with world's largest pharmaceutical company today to develop an alternate for your blisters packaging, right? So there are developments happening. I think we will have to embrace these developments. Irrespective of what we are doing today, there are definitely scope to do much better than where we are today. I don't think there will be a challenge of scaling this up. The only challenge is, as Mr. Sundar very, very rightly said, that it has to be legislation driven. It will be like, otherwise people will keep on using plastic. So it's working in two ways. One, if you see the crude oil prices going up and the plastic prices have gone up significantly from 70 rupees to 120 to 140, which is trending right now. So this is one way of government banning the single-use plastic is also there. And secondly, they will have to implement the ban. Otherwise, this will never scale. But yes, that will happen eventually. But when you ask performance-wise, some of the performance are already solved. Some of the performance are yet to be solved. And it's a long run. It's not a short-term goal that will be achieved.
Thank you, Vaibhav. So one of the key things is you are saying mandates, policies, the government pulling the levers. It's very important. Wonderful. So why don't we have some inputs from others as well? It looks like challenges alone, we may need another session. Otherwise, I think we are going to be sitting here for a long time. But let's take some inputs. I'll get my team to work on it, get back to you guys, make sure I get all of you inside. 45 minutes, we can start the challenges. But Kritika, maybe you, Ankit, Sibram, from your side, where do you guys really see challenges to scale? See, is it tech, is it performance, motivation, or the awareness? Even awareness is a problem, because sometimes people say, I don't know whether it is plastic or bioplastic. This guy claims it's bioplastic. It looks exactly like plastic. How do I believe? So it's standards and testing, testing certifications, or is it just the cost? So Kritika, from your side, green buildings, where do you see challenges?
Once again, sir, for that, Kritika. Thank you, everyone. I'm dropping off right now.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here, Vaibhav. All the best. We'll catch up soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks.
Okay, so just from the overall thing, I'm not very in the packaging industry, but plastics are used widely in the construction industry, a lot more than you would generally imagine. And I agree with Sundar that plastic is something which is at this moment with the research work we have completely not replaceable. Let's say you have plastics in your piping, in your plumbing, and all that, which are there is no option to replace it at all. Nothing else will work in the same way that your CPVC pipes work. And if you were to go for the olden technologies of copper pipes and steel pipes, then that is too cost prohibitive. So I feel that the approach must not be to look at it from a replacement perspective, but to find alternatives on a parallel ground at the time being. The alternate must work in parallel for some time, and then eventually the alternative takes the lead and then comes forward, is what I
We're
feel.
looking for something what can be called as a transition solution.
Correct, kind of. So there will be a point of time where you'll have two things, like you'll have plastics also, you'll have this thing also, and then eventually you will. And the other thing, like I agree with the fact that we must have legislation, but legislation must also be combined with what I would like to call it as glamorization. The fact of leave on green buildings and everything, the fact of sustainability has to be a glamorous thing. So for this, I'd like to cite an example of, say, you have paints. We had about 7 years back or 8 years back, paints used to be manufactured using certain organic compounds called volatile organic compounds. I think everyone now knows the term VOC. That is what used to cause that paint smell, and you would get headaches and all as soon as your new house was painted or something like that. And then around, like, say 2000, the beginning of 2010s, this people like Nippon Paint and all started glamorizing this concept of low VOC. And they bought in, stars, and they made it that, we manufactured this low VOC paint became a glamorous thing. So it became very common and knowledgeable, and now there is no paint manufacturer who does not make a zero VOC paint. There's nobody. It's the market for VOC paint is now dead. So if you buy paint, it is low VOC or zero VOC. So that kind of transformation happened within maybe even, I would say, hardly 5 to 10 years, not even 10 years. And that glamorization quotient is something which needs to come in everything, and it's really hard to make that also. Everybody cannot put in marketing efforts like, say, Nippon Paint did or something like that. So that is a challenge. I don't know what is the solution, but it is a challenge. I feel that something that we might have to look at.
Very interesting. It's a very interesting awareness challenge. You call it glamorization awareness. Ankit?
I think just for us to observe around us that globally, wherever we have seen success of issues like recycling or issues like, segregation of waste, I think everyone has said, and I'm just going to underscore that legislation or standardization, I think that is something which is the need of the hour. We have seen how something like Aadhaar has united a country as large as our nation. And if we have some standardization, some very specific guidelines, I think that will be enormously helpful for people to know. They all need a GPS. They need some directional guidance. And if we are able to get that in form of a laid down guideline, I think people will follow. That would be my closing statement.
But one quick question to you, Ankit, simply because you actually are in a very interesting intersection. As you rightly said, you yourself have been one of the largest manufacturers of those plastic bottles earlier, right? And now you have exited it. You're making sustainable cups. I have a few of your cups right behind me over here. Yeah. Now, it's for a different day. I know we're running out of time. Probably another 5 minutes, we'll finish it off. You have seen that, you have seen here. Do you, on the marketing side, are there any big challenges that are popping up to you when it comes to selling those? They're plastic products used by Coke, Pepsi, whoever, in millions and millions. Here you have to convince each and every day, try my stuff. Are you having a party? Take my paper cups, try it, or biodegradable cups, try it. From a marketing side, have you seen any hint of any key challenge popping up right now? There may be many, but what stands out in your mind? Just curious to know.
So, marketing challenges for paper cups, is that what you are, is that your question?
Well, I guess maybe it's for a different day. Since you actually have had a foot in both plastics and sustainable, is there any quick, any immediate challenge or something that pops up saying, look, it was very easy to market those bottles, but here I have to convince a customer on either cost or awareness or understanding what it's all about. As I said, it's probably my question is very, very precise, but just because you had a foot in both, I thought, is there something that's popping up as a difference between the two rather than just sustainable packaging in itself?
Maybe I don't have a strong view on that, but let me just try to address that with two examples. Now, when we used to work with a lot of these multinational companies, some of them global multinational companies like Nestle, Unilever, P&G, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and all of these folks, there was this time where the entire consumerism also was that as long as you keep the consumer happy, we will sell them anything and everything. So, for example, if you had to put a pouch of coffee in a tiffin box, a plastic tiffin box, a brand manager will say that if it helps me, skyrocket my sales, I'm just going to go and do it. But now consciously brands have said that as long as it does not, A, increase my carbon footprint, and 2, does not involve additional use of plastics or additional use of plastics from what I'm already using in my primary packaging, I do not want to be putting more pressure on the entire supply chain in terms of my carbon footprint. So that, if you see now, if you're taking a flight anywhere and if you get served cup noodles on the flight, you will now notice that the cup noodles are no longer coming with the plastic foldable fork that used to come inside, right? The airlines are giving you now disposable forks around it. So I'm saying consciously, there is a conscious effort by brands to reduce the usage of plastics. At the same time, are plastic-lined paper cups the best alternative? Maybe yes, but when they go back to the recycling stream, it's very difficult to separate the plastic layer from the paper. And hence then you come up with water coating solutions, whether the water coating solution in a paper cup is good enough or not, or a PLA coating or a PBS coating is good enough or not. Quite frankly, there is no immediate answer. The consumer awareness, education, all of them perceive things differently. But as the generation, as part of our education protocol also, you will see a lot of schools, colleges, curriculum supporting the reduction of plastic usage, which is now, so whether marketing of plastics is easier, no, it's becoming very tough right now.
Okay, that's probably the insight I wanted. In fact, it's a bit counterintuitive to what I thought. I was thinking, oh, you do not really market plastic. There's huge demand. What you're saying is there are obstacles coming up, right? There are obstacles coming up where, while it's going to take some time before guys completely embrace biodegradable plastics, guys are at least saying, look, the plastic that I get, let me know a bit more about it. At least it has reached that stage.
100%, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we'll go on to Sivram. Sivram, from your side, I know I have not been able to do justice to the kind of intelligence each of you guys can get on the table. Maybe next time, Sivram, your side, so that we can close the first part of the challenges session today.
So yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can.
So I have a slightly different perspective on this. Maybe coming from my own experience of building the business in Brooklyn. Two parts to it. One is, what Kritika referred to as glamorization. I would slightly put it differently, that better awareness, right? The fact of zero VOC paints, while initially it started as glamorization, more and more people are opting for it. Even people who may not want to pay a premium are still willing to pay and opt for it. Is because it is healthier. They don't want to inhale the volatile organic compounds, which causes health problems. So I would say, see, when there is a premium product, somebody has to pay for it, right? There is no free meal in this world. So if we are saying that there has to be legislation to facilitate growth of business, to some extent, yes. But I believe that you have to create conditions where the consumer actually is willing to pay a little more, or willing to pay the actual price of the product, which means, there is no subsidy involved. Neither the customer nor the government or no other agency is subsidizing the cost of the product. Only that will build sustainable business, is my experience, because it took 10 years for us to reach a level where we have started to see profitability in our business. And that is because scale in revenue could be achieved only when we delivered value to the consumer. At the end of the day, business means, are you adding value to your customer, right? If you're not adding value to customer, maybe whatever portion of the value chain it may be, but eventually the end customer gets value for what they're paying, the business doesn't happen. So this is, excuse me, this is the theory. And in practice, I've seen it happen to us. We are operating both in the B2C and the B2B segment. And we see that playing out very clearly. You take the B2B segment, it is extremely competitive. My B2B customer eventually decides based on economics. Even though I offer low carbon footprint, low toxicity, I even offer scope 3 carbon reduction for him or her, but still they make a decision based on the economics, because their survival is dependent on that. So summarizing, what I'm saying is that while legislations can initially open the door, can begin to make the awareness more and more for people, at the end of the day, I think what you offer has to be competitive. Only then it will build sustainable kind of business. In this case, in the case of climate technology, what I'm saying, when I use the word stars seem to be getting aligned, or they are aligned, what I'm saying is that the people are realizing that if they don't use certain types of products, their grandchildren may find it difficult to live in this world. So they are therefore willing to pay a little for doing that. That's my perspective. I don't know whether I presented what I have in my mind, but I'm saying that you have to, first of all, offer value. Maybe to some extent, initial stages, it will help through the legislations and other facilitations will help. But eventually you have to offer value for which the customer is willing to pay.
Got it, Subram. Well, firstly, thank you guys. Thank you for being here for an hour. I'm going to take just a minute to summarize, because if I have to really do a good analysis, it'll take a lot of time, and that I'm going to do offline. Well, I think we had 6 of you. That's excellent for an hour on a very, very challenging topic, scaling low carbon materials, each coming with its own characteristics and user segments. what I heard is that each of you stressed different points. Many of them are not unknown points per se, be it policies or economics or technology or performance. But what is interesting for me today is that I think some of the articulations people have made, the examples you have given, the analogies that you have provided, the glamorization that Kritika spoke about, or the interesting dialogue we had between Vaibhav and Sundar on PLA. I think that should wait for a different day for it to get extended for all us to understand where it's going. Ankit's idea of standardization, and he gave an example of Aadhaar where a standard was able to get the masses united on a single platform. I think these are things I'm going to take back with me. It's going to take some time for me to get all these together and see what do these mean in terms of our articulation of the key challenges. But give me maybe a week, I'll get back to you with something, and hopefully in a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, we can have a slightly longer session planned, possibly on a Saturday or something, so that it's easier for you guys. When we start with the articulation of the challenges that you guys have put together, and hopefully we can, by the end of that session, have a very, very clear list of challenges and maybe even some ways forward. And if time allows, we can have a third session where we only look at solutions. Thank you very much once again, Mitanshu, Sibram, Sundar, Ankit, Kritika, and Vaibhav in absentia. Look forward to seeing you guys all once again. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
In the Mandam.